welcome back to episode 2 of the Human Factors Technology Podcast. My name is Jared Degnan. Thank you so much for joining us. So today we're going to have a little bit more of what I would call a primer episode. Think of this as like a little mini TED Talk on one of my favorite topics, something that I end up getting on a soapbox quite a lot about, and that is technology strategy. Now, the reason why I'm going to be talking about technology strategy is specifically because it is so misunderstood. If you ask strategists what technology strategy is, they're going to give you one answer. If you ask technologists what strategy is, they're either going to give you a whole nother answer, or they're going to say it doesn't really matter. But I'm here to say that it absolutely does matter. It is incredibly important for the success of technology as a whole and for the success of organizations as a whole. What I'm going to try to do today is break down a little bit about what technology strategy is, what goes into it, why it's so important for technology organizations, maybe go over a couple of the key categories of technology strategy, and then give you just kind of like that one takeaway to say, this is why technology strategy is important in case you need to talk to an executive, a CIO, etc. So let's start by, I'm not going to define technology strategy because I think that everybody has their own definition of it, but I'm going to talk about what it encapsulates. To me, technology strategy is like solving a Rubik's Cube. It's what happens when you bring 6 specific things together: people, process, systems, data, ROI, and experiences. Each one of these things independently has an influence on technology. For instance, with people, you can draw that immediately into customer journeys. With processes, you can talk about productivity. With systems, you can talk about, what platforms are you choosing? What are the integrations? Data is, of course, the thing that runs through the pipes. ROI is specifically, how much are you willing to pay and how much do you want to get out of your particular investment dollars. And then finally, kind of experiences, what it's all about, why you would engage in any of this to begin with. That being said, one of the biggest challenges that I have found, at least in my career, as it relates to technology strategy, is positioning it versus the other strategies that are on the table. When you think about the hierarchy that exists within different strategies, technology strategy should not be your primary strategy. Your primary strategy is your corporate strategy, your business strategy. It's how you differentiate yourself from your competitors. It's how you make money. It's how you return value for your shareholders. Now, that being said, nested underneath that, what we'll call the corporate layer, is functionally the business layer. And that includes marketing strategy, operation strategy, and you guessed it, technology strategy. So the reason why these things are important is because they feed off of the corporate business strategy up top, but then feed down to the functional layer, which includes your experience strategy, your talent strategy, your data strategy, your finance strategy, and your platform strategy. This is a very modern interpretation of strategic hierarchy in that it says that no one organization owns strategy outright. In fact, you might have these sub-strategies, but they all have to work together. Theoretically, that's the biggest challenge in this day and age, and particularly when we're talking about human factors technology, the technology that is driven by and influences human behavior. You really cannot have technology stand on its own. You have to have it integrate both with users being the people who actually have to run the technology, as well as the end user, the customer, which is where marketing strategy comes in. Make sense? All right. So let's talk a little bit about 3 major categories of technology strategy. Now, the reason why I'm going into categories versus, let's just say, line item specific strategies and name them is because I have found that for every strategy that you can find within technology, you're actually going to find yourself in a situation where, frankly, it's almost like a thumbprint. Each technology strategy is going to be as unique as the organization it serves. And that is why I prefer to think of these mass categories. Now, luckily enough for us, when we talk about technology strategy, and maybe I should have introduced this up front, it's strategy it's a second nature to strategists. It's second nature to very specifically business minded individuals. However, when you're talking about coming from the grassroots of the technology organization, strategy becomes a little bit of a stranger. And in particular, when you say that you are going to have a strategy for technology, a lot of CIOs, a lot of VPs of technology are going to think about, well, do I have an Adobe stack, or do I have an Oracle stack, or any number of these foundational platforms? But I can tell you that none of those are actually a strategy. Those are simply choices that you have to make. They're important choices. Platforms are incredibly important. However, more so is what you do with them, because theoretically, particularly in this day and age where the barriers to entry are so low, the fact of the matter is that, you can substitute one platform for another, no matter what business you're in. Now, my guess is that I'm going to have a couple people come for me in the comments, and that's completely fine. But the whole point of doing a podcast like this is to stake out some sort of claim, to be able to say, this is what I believe, and hopefully this helps you too. So let's dive into those three categories. The first is going to be pretty simple. It's out of the box. So this is a technology strategy where you are going to take whatever platform it is, take it out of the box. You're not going to do a lot of customization. You might do some configuration, but that is going to be your technology that you run with. Now, the reason why it becomes a strategy is because that out of the box functionality becomes the way that your business works. And a really good example of this is, I think, content management systems. A lot of content management systems come out of the box and they have analytics, they have maybe even AI integrated into them. But the whole point is that this becomes the way you work. So rather than adopting the technology to the way you work, you are adopting to the way that it works. Now, this can be both good and bad. It's great because it's usually more cost effective than other strategies. But then it also gives you that trade-off that sometimes features and functionality, either that you want for your users, your technical users, or your customers may not be there. You're suddenly, I'm not saying you're abdicating your strategy or your experience, but you are adapting it to whatever comes out of the box, right? One step beyond out of the box is what's known as best of breed. Best of breed is by far the most common category of technology strategies. Think about like having lots of small little out of the box solutions, and they are all theoretically connected together. Best of breed takes, let's go back to that marketing example, that MarTech example. You've got an SMS platform, you've got a content management platform, you've got an analytics platform. Each of them do the best that they can or fill a very specific need for a company. That is best of breed. You are taking this larger experience and saying, that's my North Star, and then I'm fitting all these things to it. Now, the biggest challenge with best of breed is that, yes, it is a nice happy medium to the other strategy that we'll talk about in a second, which is custom dev. But honestly, though, it's that middle layer that's going to kill you. Best of breed can work, but best of breed works when you either A, have a common ecosystem, i.e. like Apple or Oracle or Amazon. It doesn't work when you find some sort of really cool platform that you love, but then suddenly you hit a full stop because that platform doesn't integrate with anything else. Now, we've come a long way with APIs to connect the dots between things, but not only do you need a team to set up your best of breed solution, you often need a team to continually update it, because anybody who has worked with something like WordPress can tell you that if one part of the system gets upgraded, suddenly it may impact the way that something else might function. So think of best of breed. You might have 4 or 5 different systems or more. One of those systems changes, suddenly your entire equilibrium is off. Again, it's a great North Star strategy. I love best of breed, but you have to go in with eyes wide open about what it means. What's the alternative? The alternative is basically this category that I'm going to call custom dev. This is building exactly what you want, the way that you want it, with the functionality that meets all of your criteria. Custom dev is really enticing, particularly for larger organizations that have very specific needs, because you are able to take something, whether it's an out of the box platform that can be customized or just simply build it straight from yourself, and customize it to exactly your needs, which is great. Number one, is expensive. Number two, it requires an enormous amount of maintenance. Good example of this is Chick-fil-A. You'll find that, in technology, you go back to a couple of different gold star brands, and I think Chick-fil-A is one of them. Chick-fil-A, once upon a time, had somebody else's app. I know this because I worked on their agency. Nowadays, though, Chick-fil-A not only has their own app that they have completely built from scratch, they're actually more of a technology company that just happens to sell chicken now. They have virtually their own point of sale system, they have their own app, and they've got this massive team behind the scenes, this massive tech team that supports and maintains this experience. I think that that's really kind of the core of custom dev. To me, it's much like when a client tells you they want custom dev, I hear the client saying, I want a puppy. Yes, a puppy is a great thing. Dogs, I'm a dog person. But you also know that you're going to need to go and walk the dog. You're going to have to feed the dog. The dog can get expensive, especially if you have to go to the vet, and so on and so forth. You get the idea, though. Custom dev is a wonderful thing, but it's also something that you have to maintain on into the future. Again, those 3 categories were out of the box, best of breed, and custom development. Those are very broad categories, but they will serve as the foundation for a lot of the things we will talk about in this podcast, because you'll find that the devil really is in the details when you dive into what is a human factors technology versus something that is simply a technology with a human focus, if that makes sense. Why should we care about this? I mean, I know that strategy is smart, and strategy is something that I think we can all agree is a good thing. But ultimately, the technology organizations have had a challenge embracing strategy as a part of the technology organization, just because technology is so complicated. It moves so quickly. You have to have experts with you. It's like climbing Mount Everest. If you don't have those Sherpas, if you don't have somebody who knows that route, you're going to end up lost. There is one thing that I have found that does bring everybody together, and it's common enough understanding that I think that if you're ever in a conversation about technology strategy, you need to bring this up, because it does hit home the challenge. And that concept, that thing, that common ground is tech debt. You're probably already familiar with tech debt. In fact, if you're not, I suggest you go into that drawer you have at home. It might be a small drawer, it might be a big bucket like mine, where you have all of this old technology. Some of the stuff works, Some of the stuff you just keep around because you can't really find yourself in a place where you really can give it up. That is the essence of tech debt. And tech debt is accumulated because of a lack of technology strategy. Now, I'm not saying that technology strategy is the end all be all for tech debt. It's not. But what technology strategy does is ask the question, where is the smart money spent? Is it spent on going out of the box? Is it better spent going on custom dev? There are all of these different questions that will ultimately say, well, my strategy is this, therefore I'm going to invest in this. And as long as I maintain my focus on that strategy, suddenly all of these random decisions that have to be made over time. I'll give you a great example. How many of us have been in an organization where an executive has said, well, I need this or I need that, or, oh, hey, I went to a conference and I met these guys from this amazing startup. I want their stuff to be integrated into our tech stack. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. However, when you have a technology strategy and you realize the purpose of technology strategy is to help you avoid tech debt, suddenly it becomes a whole different ballgame. It becomes this question of this Rubik's Cube. How do you keep everything aligned so that your users are happy, your finance team is happy, your technical team is happy because they're not having to pick up the phone so often and hear about things that are breaking, and fundamentally your users are happier because you've got focus. That's just a quick primer on technology strategy, and you're going to hear me refer back to it over and over and over again in this series, but I hope you found this useful because I truly believe the more we embrace some of these fundamentals that are not only incredibly important to the success of technology going forward, but it also helps us help our teams make decisions. The more we understand these things, the more we communicate about them, the more we trade ideas, I think the better off we are. So that being said, I will ask you to like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, please like this video. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends about this podcast. I've got a couple of phenomenal interviews that are in the pipeline that will dive into these topics deeper. I have some other concepts that I'm playing around with that I'm really excited to share with you guys. And as you can tell, this is what I do because this helps me think through some of my own theories and ideas and strategies. What I hope is that you'll leave your own comments wherever you listen to your podcasts or email us at hello@humanfactorstech.com and share with us some of your ideas. What's your definition of tech strategy? Where have you seen it work? Where have you seen it not work? I would love to hear some of your stories from out in the field. Let's trade ideas and best practices so that we can all become more successful. With that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. It means the world to me that we've already gotten close to 100 subscribers, according to the podcast analytics that I'm looking at. We've only had one podcast come out. I'm really excited about this. Thank you again for tuning in. And you know what? Stay safe, stay smart, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.